Welcome to Make Your Own Fun. This is season 5, episode 1, and you guys are in for a treat today because I am here with Tamell, Big Bailey, and let me just roll out this list that I had to write down because this man does a lot of things. It's super impressive. So here we go. He is a spoken rap artist, an event host, a music producer, an audio engineer, a graphic designer, an actor, a videographer, and a computer technician. Welcome to the show, Tamell, man. How are you doing today?
I am great. I am great. How about yourself?
Man, I'm good. I'm good. I've survived the holidays. It looks like you did too.
Yes, sir, by the skin of my teeth, but I made it. Oh, and something I don't really mention in my normal bio, but I feel like I definitely need to mention as well about myself. I am a full-time father, which was just the reason why I was delayed in this meeting. I apologize. So
We all
I have
know how that goes, man.
yeah, I have a 17-year-old son that lives with me, and yeah, it's quite an adventure. He's a junior in high school right now. But yes, but I'm good though. Santa bought me a few gifts for Christmas, and my son got everything he wanted. That's what's most important. And
Yeah,
we're here in 2025, and 2024 is done. So I'm excited for the future.
man. It almost sounds like when you say it out loud, it almost sounds like distant future 2025 because it's like we all make these references to songs, to movies, to political things, to whatever. And we're still talking about stuff from 50, 60, 70 years ago. I myself, maybe you can relate to I myself made a reference to a coworker much, much, much younger than me, and my other coworker who happened to be there, she got such a kick out of it because I said something about, well, if you don't like it, you can go hop in your, DeLorean and go back and fix it. And he's like, oh, what now? And
Yes,
then he
back
walked away, and my other coworker, where she was just like, welcome to old.
yes, Back to the Future. I remember very well.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So for the folks who are watching, we just came out of a clip of Tamell, Big Bailey, doing his song "Never Quit on Your Dreams," a live performance. And man, I have to ask you because I saw that clip and I was blown away. And I'm like, I think I had heard you at the open mic perform just the words as a spoken word piece. That band is tight. Like, how long have you been playing? The same people over a long period of time?
So that is the Sounds of Brilliance band. They are well known in Augusta, Georgia, and they do various things throughout the Southeast region, but they're based in Augusta from Augusta. Um, and so that was actually my first performance with them as a collective. We rehearsed only twice.
Oh
They
my
are
God.
very dynamic and very we I gave them what I did, I gave them the instrumentals for the songs, and they picked it up within like 10 minutes. That like I say, very improv type of stuff, and they just picked it up, and we just rehearsed a few times with me and the singers and the Saw Jules, the poet, and Lolita Pierre was one of the singers. Cookie Puntu was the other singer, and the band is just they have a keyboardist sometimes, but the people that were there was the drummer, Wayne Preston, who is actually an audio producer. He's a musician, a songwriter. He does studio recording. He does a lot. He's a DJ as well. He DJs a lot in the Augusta and all over Augusta, South Carolina, Georgia, and the lead guitar player Calvin Coco Dillon. He is a songwriter, singer, musician. He plays a bunch of different instruments as well, and he performs all over the area. The actual bass guitar player, Dub Sapp, he actually runs the JAMP, the Junior. I gotta say this right, Junior Academy of Music Pupils. It's a music program for children based out of Augusta. It's in the legacy of James Brown, and he was actually nominated for a Grammy as the best music educator for the JAMP. So he's very well known in the area as well, and he does a recording, audio, live, studio, all that kind of stuff. So they're very very well known and accomplished and talented musicians, and it had always been a dream of mine to work with them. Honestly, I seen them perform for the first time probably about, what has it been now? Probably like 5 years ago, and we just connected. I followed them from show to show. I was truly a fan. I know most of these songs by heart. And just one day I was like, hey, I just threw it out there. I was like, would you guys be interested in this? And everybody just agreed very quickly, and that's the way it happened. I'm still shocked that it happened myself, but I'm excited about it and excited of us doing shows in the future. And that was actually the Arts in the Heart of Augusta Festival is what that event was. In case just for everybody to know that that's a yearly event. It's a huge event that takes over downtown Augusta, Georgia. But yeah, I was very excited, and I hope I can do more shows with them in the future. And they have talked about that possibility. We just have to make some things happen.
You got to, man, because that was just so, I don't know, it was lit, it was so raw, it was so energetic. And I think there there might be a preconceived notion, I'll speak to this about hip hop, where because a lot of the composition is studio based, that I think that people have a misconception that it's hard or people don't want to try to do hip hop live, like to recreate the sound on a stage with a band. And I just think people are full of it. I think that that's a thing where it's like, oh, well, the vocal's not going to sound as good. Like any form of music, the vocal's not going to sound as crisp live because it's live. It's it's going out. You're projecting your voice. But I mean, I'm just going to go back to because I'm a little old school. I'm going to go back to I remember when I saw I think it was Jay-Z his Unplugged special,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like,
MTV, yeah, back in the MTV day.
yeah, and I remember telling people like. 'Cause that was just that preconceived notion, like, oh, you can't do rap or hip hop, you can't do it live with a band, and it can't recreate a sound in the studio. I'm like, maybe, maybe not, but you know what you can do? You can make it its own organic thing, and you still get the point across, and you could even perform, different songs. But it just goes to show you, man, like, you just got to get this stuff out there because there's an audience for everything. So
Yes, sir.
I'm
Can I
gonna
mention?
go
Oh
ahead.
no, I'm sorry. Can I mention something to the point you just made?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I thought you were going a different direction about that. There
yeah.
are a lot of preconceived misnomers and misnotions about hip hop in general from all over the place. And I get a lot of those because most of the popular hip hop and certain things that you may hear is different in certain things. But when it comes to like performing and things of that nature, um, you know, if you follow people like Kanye West, for example, and he's a producer, he does everything. He gets a symphony orchestra and live, not just the band, but a whole orchestra and a whole choir for some of his stuff that he's performed. And actually, just recently, Rick Ross, I think, did a concert with a whole symphony and a band and everything together. I think that just happened in December, as a matter of fact. So it happens more often than people would realize, and people put on all these massive shows and people think that a hip hop artist just plays a record and goes, but it's not like that. It happens a lot with live instrumentation and live musicians. And when I'm in the studio recording and making music, I like to get live actual instruments in there on my songs if it's possible, if I have someone I can call on. So it's one of those things where if you're ignorant, you never know. But that's the thing with me. I try to do different things and that people don't know about and spread the word more, that it's not so closed off like a lot of people feel like it is. And hip hop is still young. It's only 51 years old as an art form. So it's a lot of growing that there is to do, but hip hop has done a lot more than most people give it credit for the culture, for the world, for the economy, for everything. So I just want to get off my soapbox with that. So I had to say that right quick.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. I'm gonna circle back to kind of like how we first met, and I'd like to kind of plug the Art of Words reading at the Aiken Public Library. And I have, me personally, I've benefited a lot just because when I first moved to the area, I didn't know any venues and I didn't know, where the open mics were, and it just seemed like a lot of and I wouldn't say cloak and dagger or closed doors, but it's just not broadcast. And I'm finding out that there's just a lot more going on in Augusta maybe. But I just for the folks that are watching this and they're seeing you for the first time, I guess let them know how kind of like you and Kathy kind of started the Art of Words and kind of where it came from, because I feel like you really built that from the ground up.
Oh yes, definitely. So Kathy has been a friend of mine for a few years now. I normally the main show I would curate and do is a called Big Bailey's Birthday Bash, which is a yearly show around my birthday that I get different artists and I do an open mic on, and we have food, and it's all a fun time. And she actually performed there 2 years ago, I think it was. And during that time, between there and us just interacting online, we had a few conversations talking about working together as far as on music and then talking about other stuff. So between that time with us working on music, she had a song about her mother, and I have quite a few things about my mother. So we actually collaborated on something together that we perform sometimes. Hers was called Southern Perfume. Mine was called Johnny May after my mother, but I do a different poem with her with the guitar, and I do the poem as she does the singing. So we're trying to do more with that if we just get time to get together. But I think that's going to be an interesting combination. So throughout the time with us getting that together, I told her that I have been trying for at least 6 years now to get an open mic going in the Aiken area for focused on poetry, spoken word poetry, literal poetry, just poetry focused. And I promise it's been about 6, maybe more, maybe 7 years. And there's like probably 3 different groups that I have been involved in where we were taking steps to get that started, but it kept falling through. And I expressed that to her. And, a little while later, she came back to me and she was like, I think we might can make this happen at the library. I had knew her from working at the library for a while. And so from there, we put the logistics together. She booked the room for the first, I think she booked it for January, February, and March of 2024. Those are our first 3 months. And we talked about how we wanted to do things, and we had planning meetings. And, like I say with the art of words, it is my child. She always gives me the credit, but, it's my child. I birthed it, but she definitely changed the diaper and fed it quite a few times. So she took care of the baby as much as well as I have. So I give her great credit for that. And it wouldn't exist without her. She keeps saying it's my show, but it's our show. It's a collaborative effort. She gave my vision a home and made it a possibility of coming to fruition. So I greatly appreciate Kathy for that. So that's where it started. And, we started in January. And, I talked about how I wanted the show to go, just having one featured artist and an open mic. I always want to have an open mic to give anybody a chance to perform that wants to be heard. That was my main concept when I do anything, when I put any kind of show together, is to give people an opportunity that may not have it elsewhere. So that's the point of the open mic versus just having like 4 featured artists or something. So, and that was our concept at first. It was going to be called the Art of Words Being Heard, which was the April Poetry Month special that we done. But that was the whole concept of getting people's voices out there who otherwise wouldn't have a chance to be heard. And we're primarily focused on young adults and adults. And but yeah, that's how it started. And we started in January, first beginning of the year, and now we are on our 13th as of January this year coming up. We've done 12 successful, wonderful, enlightening, communicative, people just, that's what I like the most about the shows, is that the things people express after they're over, how safe they felt to express themselves and be vulnerable, how giving it felt, in a wholesome environment, where people can express themselves and not feel judged and just let it out. And I'm happy that we've been able to cultivate that kind of environment more than anything else. But that's
Yeah,
pretty much what it is.
man, it's awe-inspiring too, because I've been there 3 or 4 times now, and you just never prepared. I mean, it is a public library, so you have to, mind your P's and Q's, and somebody like me who kind of has a potty mouth and maybe no filter. So I had to kind of readjust myself a little bit that first time, but you get used to that with being in the library. But there have been some performers there where never seen them before. They maybe not even 20, 25 years old or whatever, and then they open their mouth and this thing comes out, and you're just, oh, your jaw is on the ground, because like you said, you guys cultivate a safe space, and that person may only read one thing. It might even not even be a poem per se. It might just be something on a piece of paper or a napkin, or they're just something they memorized, and it's just awe inspiring. So on behalf of everybody who attends that, I want to just reach out and say, thank you. And if she's watching, Kathy, thank you very much. That's pretty amazing. So let me bring up this too, because speaking of, we were talking earlier about, time machines and everything. So I guess hop back in your Wayback Machine of choice. And do you remember how old you were when you started writing, or when you saw somebody, whatever kind of performance it was, when you said, "Ooh, yeah, that looks really fun. I want to try that."
Yes, indeed. So my journey with writing in general being something I wanted to pursue and an interest started when I was actually in the fifth grade. And I don't mind dating myself. I am 41 years old, so I don't even know what year that would have been. Somebody can do the math that's quicker math in their head than I am. But so I was in the fifth grade, and it was called the Santee Cooper essay. It was something for the state of South Carolina. We had to write an essay that was like we were writing to the president about an endangered species. So actually, that was a competition throughout our entire, not just our school, but throughout our entire like area region of schools. And I actually won that competition for that essay. And that and yeah, so at that point, my teachers were like, "Hey, you may have something as a writer. You may want to look into this further." And so from there, I remember my first poem that I wrote in the fifth grade when we were introduced to poetry in the fifth grade. I was actually the first poet that I was really inspired by and connected to as a Black man was Langston Hughes, of course. Um, The Dream Deferred was one of my favorites of his. But so I remember my first poem. I don't remember it exactly, but it was something about how the smell of grass in the summertime and it being hot made me thirsty or something to that effect. But I don't remember it exactly. I wish I could find it somewhere, but that was like the first poem I actually wrote as an assignment because I had to.
Right.
And from there on, I would always just write little poetic things. And eventually, once I got in middle school, I started getting more into writing specifically hip hop and writing rap verses. That's where I started more as a writer, as a hobby. I always wrote raps all the time. I had like stacks of notebooks. Matter of fact, I still got a notebook from high school with some of my old poems and songs in it.
Wow.
So I would write raps all the time, and eventually it got to the point where I wanted to record and make songs. I went to one studio sort of situation with a friend of mine, and from there I said, you know what, I want to see. I'm going too far probably with answering your question, but this gets into my story of how I get to where I am now. I wanted to learn how to do everything, mainly because I was poor and I couldn't afford to pay people to do it. So it was a necessity. Like, I want to do this, but I don't want to have to pay someone all the time. So I learned how to start making beats, making instrumentals. I used to have a keyboard and I used to record on tapes, and I didn't have a multi-track sequencer. So I would have to play the keyboard for the whole song throughout the whole song to make a beat or whatever. And then when I came to record, I didn't have a microphone. I just had my computer, and I would have to record into my headphones. I would plug the headphones into the microphone jack and record my voice over the song. So that's how I first started recording. And so from there, I actually took actual professional classes about audio engineering and studio recording, and I became much more proficient at it to the point where now I do it as a service for people. Um, and yeah, I learned how to do engineering. I learned how to make beats. I learned songwriting. Now, when it comes to spoken word poetry, I wasn't introduced to it as an art form until 2003. As something I wanted to really get invested in, and that was through Kanye West's College Dropout album. The poet Jay Ivy was on a song called Never Let Me Down, featuring Jay-Z, who you just mentioned. Jay-Z, Kanye West, and Jay Ivy. And he did a spoken word piece. I can almost remember it word for word still. The first few lines were like, "We are all here for a reason on a particular path. You don't need the curriculum to know that you are part of the math. Cats think I'm delirious, but I'm so damn serious. That's why I expose my soul to the globe, the world. I'm trying to make it better for these little boys and girls." That's just the beginning of it. So that's what got me like, what is this? Like, this ain't a rap. It's a little different. So, and actually, just to mention JIV, there's a newly created award in the Grammys for the best poetry album, and he's won it for the past 2 years. Actually, it just got created. Um, so that's what got me into spoken word. I did my first open mic performance in 2007 at a place called Sultry Sounds in Augusta. And from that first performance, this is what had me with the big head. Someone see me. Her name is Faith Hope, and she had a entertainment thing called Diamond Life. She see me at that open mic and wanted me to do a featured performance from that first one. My first time doing it, so I was like, "Oh, I'm great. I'm the best. Like I'm gonna get paid already. I just started doing it." So like I was gassed up. My head was bigger than all outside. Of course, I'm much more humble than that these days, but I was really feeling myself back then. So that was my inception with spoken word and open mics. And like I say, that was back in 2007, and I've been performing spoken word and hip hop ever since. When it comes to performing hip hop, I've been doing that since high school. There was a show called The Cultural Explosion with our high school that I actually sang La Bamba, a Spanish song. I was singing La
Wow.
Bamba because I used to sing back. I used to sing more than anything else. I was trained in the choir in the chorus in school from like the 10th grade to the 12th grade. So I was trained learning how to read sheet music and learn all kind of stuff about music theory and classical training and all that good stuff. So that's when my music stuff started at. But yeah, so I did that performance. I sang La Bamba, and me and two other people had a rap group in high school that we did in that performance. Those two performances are actually on YouTube right now. I will happily point them out to you guys at some point on this video. But yeah, that's the Wayback Machine for right now. I think I've said a lot. So
Cool. Well, I gotta touch on this because this is something we kind of talked about briefly, and you kind of brought up in the open mics and stuff. And I guess not even just as a writer, but also as a musician. With the area that we live in, with everything being so spread out. So, what motivates you to travel from like Aiken to Augusta to Atlanta and all points in between? Because you are someone who really gets out there and performing at these stage shows and these festivals. And so, do you organize all that yourself, or do you have like a set schedule where, like, when you know this is coming up on this month at this day at this time, or certain things only happen like every few months? So, yeah, how do you prioritize and get all your ducks in a row and know like, okay, if I'm going to drop a new song, I've got to be at this place on the second Saturday of whatever city it is, because that's when they're going to have the biggest crowd. I can put out a merch table. I can do all this stuff to promote myself. So I guess just, how do you do it, man? How do you get out there from A, B to C and back again,
yeah, well, the biggest thing as far as that is concerned, I don't know if you can see this, if it's going to come through, probably not, but this is
Not
my
really.
calendar. Let me see if I put it back. There we go. This is my calendar on my phone. I don't
Okay.
know if you can see how much stuff is there.
Yeah.
I would not survive without my calendar. So as far as traveling in general, and I guess more so what you're asking is knowing where to travel and how to get there and when to get there, things of that nature. Honestly, I hadn't been too big on traveling most of my life. But recently, um, as you said, I've been back and forth to Atlanta quite a bit. Columbia is the more often place, Columbia, South Carolina, that I've been to. I've been to Greenville, South Carolina. I've been to Florida, Louisville, Kentucky, Knoxville, Tennessee, different places performing because of festivals for that with the Southern Fried Poetry Slam. But really, there are some things that happen once a year, some things that happen once a month. I try to keep a large network, I guess is the best way to say it. And when I say keep, I mean feed into the network, not just think of what people can do for me, but more
Right.
so what I can do to provide a value for them. I'm all about giving in the first place. So I think when you think about what you can provide for other people, they're more apt to, when you need something or want something, to help you. So in that sense, I know people who know people who know people who know what's going on and how to get and how to make things happen. And I connect people a lot with different things as well. So it's kind of like keeping track of who's who and who are putting on these festivals and these shows, and contacting them, and having real conversations, and talking about why we're doing this and what the future looks like for whatever this event is. And like, it's quite a few contacts I have all over the place at this point. And yeah, it's a juggling act sometimes because because of having a child and you know, working and doing this entertainment things that I do, and then my own personal business, my computer tech business that I run, a one-man operation, Tamell's Tech Support, shameless plug, which we'll get to. So it's definitely a balancing act and finding time to do these things. But um, like I say, it's more so about having these contacts and keeping up with them to know what do I feel like I want to do, and what's the best move for me to make at the time, and making a decision and being very decisive and very intentional, and having a reason to do anything, and not just, I'm a planner, as they say. I very rarely just fly by the seat of my pants and say I'm gonna do this. Like, so yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Well, let
I
me
keep
ask you this. I'll build on that and say, so do you do like research online and look at YouTube videos and clips of stuff of like open mics, and that way you can kind of gauge like, oh, hey, this is not for me, or this it totally is for me, or you call up somebody you like somebody in Atlanta, or we're talking about Greenville or Columbia. Do you know like you can reach out to somebody and say like, hey man, I heard this thing open like 2 weeks ago, like what's it going on? What's it like? Do they have a PA? Do they have a stage? Is it in the back of a bar where you got to scream over like a coffee machine, or what's going on?
Yeah, so most of that at this point comes from people that I already know who are doing things that I've been running for a while. But there's also information that people curate themselves as far as what's going on where. And it's kind of, I've been thinking about making like a central repository myself of that information, because it's not as easily accessible as I think it should be unless you're in these groups or on these websites or things like that. A couple friends of mine, Bugsy Calhoun and Karen Jordan of Winter Storm, they're big poets, legends in the Columbia area. They started this thing called SC Plug 9, 7, 9, no, 7, where they were just plugging all the events that were going on in the Columbia, South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina area. They would do that once a week. Um, so I was thinking about doing something like that, but for me, it's like one of those things that, do I really have time to dedicate to stuff like that? But it's information out there. It's like a Google search. A lot of things are on places like Eventbrite. It's just a Google search away sometimes. If I'm going to a new city sometime, I just say, put in this city and say open mic, just see what's a possibility to jump on. If I'm going to be there, I say, I'll find somewhere to perform. And for me, a lot of people, once they get to a certain, I don't know, I don't want to say level, but once they get to a certain mindset, they're like, oh, I wouldn't perform at this open mic here, because I never have that attitude. I don't care if it's two people in the audience. I'm gonna do the best show I can for those two people. I don't have to get paid for every show I do. I just want to leave an impression on someone and leave them with something than they better than before they came. That's my goal with any performance, to leave someone with something that will improve the quality or the thoughts in their life. So for me, that doesn't have to be on a grandiose stage or with 10 million people. It could be just one-on-one, if I'm
Yeah.
just talking to somebody. We don't have to necessarily perform, just having a conversation. So there are stages everywhere. And if it's not one and you want one to be somewhere, you have to look into ways to make that happen. But that's an undertaking that a lot of people underestimate as well. The time and the effort that it takes to put shows together. Because I've been putting shows together for probably like what? Matter of fact, before I performed my spoken word in 2007, I used to put on hip hop shows because I wanted to perform hip hop. So that was a whole other thing. So I've been putting shows together for like 20 years at this point. So it's a labor of love. And the people that the people that do this, people think, oh, they just trying to make $1 million. They just in it for the money. No, a lot of times you take a loss. A lot of times you're lucky to break even with some of these kind of things. And that's what I love about the art of words, is the fact that we don't charge admission. It's not a money grab. It's specifically about the art and the
Right.
art of the words. So I look for shows like that, and I don't mind, I don't mind just doing the open mic here or there. But the real answer is that there's information in Facebook groups. There are Augusta Facebook groups. There are Aiken Facebook groups. There are Atlanta Facebook. Different communities have Facebook groups, and then they're just like specific poetry things. I have a Facebook group called Poetry is Therapy, where I do announce a few events in there. But But yeah, it's all over the place and it's kind of scattered. So it's probably kind of hard to know sometimes if you're trying to go somewhere. But I know people in most areas in the region when it comes to poetry. So ask me, and I can point you in the
You
right
are the
direction.
go-to. You are the go-to.
Yeah.
So now we talked about going out places. So let's bring it back in and say either just for spoken word or for hip hop in general. How would you say the recording studio is an instrument for you? So like you're just going to build something from the ground up. And it sounds like you can at least put a beat down, you put a bass line down, you put a keyboard riff or whatever. You can do most of that at home. So, how would you say that that's kind of developed over the last couple of years, where you can pretty much do everything with a laptop?
Oh yeah, I love it. And you said everything with a laptop. That's what we call recording and mixing in the box. That's what they call it, in the box. Back in the day when recording studios first started, everything was analog. Everything is digital now. So you don't need all this, you don't need this big SSL console that most people associate with a studio with these 50 million knobs and all this big bulky equipment. It's just not necessary. And a lot of the hit songs that you hear on the radio or on the top of the iTunes charts, believe it or not, some kid probably made that instrumentation on his computer with I don't know, with Logic Pro or with FL Studio or with Cakewalk, and then they probably mixed it on their computer, and that's it. Like, it's just not necessary in the landscape no more these days. Now, I'm not going to take away from the actual quality and the, how do I say this? It's a different type of feel when you get in a real recording studio. As I do go to some as well, like X-Row Studios in Trenton, South Carolina, with my guy Aubrey Pompey and Thomas Glover and Wayne, the guy who's in the band. He's an engineer at X-Row as well. I record there sometimes when I want to get in a more studio professional vibe. But again, if you know what you're doing on the engineering side, it's just not necessary. If you know how to treat the audio, but some people like it just for the feel, just for the look. But yeah, all you need is a laptop these days. All you need is a laptop, and heck, you don't even really need a keyboard. Where's my keyboard? You don't even, well, you can't see it because of this darn. But
Okay,
this is
there you
what I
go.
have. Wait, let me see. Get my face back. Hooks up straight to my computer USB. But you don't even need one of these anymore. You can use your actual typing keyboard to play notes these days. You can just do on the grid, like, and all you need is a decent microphone. I have my microphone in here. I have a Rode NT1 microphone, which is, it's a decent one, but most of the songs on my album were recorded right here at home. I made most of the instruments right here at home. I did the engineering right here at home. And if you put it right beside something that was, it's like, it's not about the equipment, it's about your brain.
Oh yeah, you got to
you
know
know,
how to use the tools. You can't just have the tools. It's great to have the tools, but if you don't know how to use it, and it's all trial and error too, because I'm
precisely.
gonna date myself, and man, I remember making comedy tapes with my friends back in the day, and yes, tapes, cassettes. Whenever we were doing a skit and we had to have sound effects or background noises or something, we had to have another tape deck, and we had to have whatever the sound effect was, and then we had to have like another person there with a stopwatch and go like, okay, well, when it gets to like 35 seconds exactly, like we'll hold it up, you have to push pause, but you can't push like slam down pause because then we'll hear the click on the tape that we're recording. So it's amazing to me now that you can do everything on a cell phone, you know?
Oh yeah, I'm talking about a laptop. Yeah, you can even do, yeah, on a cell phone. You can record a whole album on a cell phone if it comes down to it. You can connect a XLR mic and everything. Yep, you sure can. GarageBand on the iPhone, and there's an
Everything.
app called BandLab for if you have an Android, because I'm an Android person. But yeah, everything can be done on a cell phone. You are right about that.
Well, let me ask you this. So, it'd be cool if you could grace us with a piece if you have a poem or something you want to try. If you have something that within reach. If
Let
not,
me
we can just
see.
plow through with some more questions. It's up to you.
Well, you, do you have a particular topic, maybe?
No, I mean,
Anything?
I'm down for anything, man. You know, whatever you want to do. I'm not gonna make it difficult for you. If you've got something you
Yeah.
can reach, if not, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I always have a few things in my head, but I'm trying to think, what would I like to share? Give me 1 second.
You
There
got
is
it.
there is one that I'm working on, but it's kind of dark. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do it because that's one I'm working
Okay,
on right now. Let me pull it up right quick. I haven't got it memorized yet.
that's all right.
So this is titled, what is the working title right now? I think it's 5 a.m. La, 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 la. And let me pull it over here. All right, so this is titled 5 a.m. as of right now. And that's not the final title, but
Okay.
all right. I was born in the morning around 5 a.m. 5 days late on September 2nd, a Friday, 5 days after my father found 55 ways to abandon my mother and I. At times, I wonder how I'm even alive today because it was over 500 miles my pops would fly away. See, I cried to stay inside and not be born bastardized. Oh, how I despise that my parents were adulterous lovers. At the time of my conception, daddy was doing more stepping out on his wife than a frat brother. Infidelity has been inevitably implanted in my deoxyribonucleic acid, my DNA. I did not always remain faithful, so I did not avoid deception, and I did not alter my generationally inherited stormy relationship weather. Probably some of the reasons I found so many seasons to be unfaithful in the spring. You see, I bounced away from the loyalty of my red hot love during summer. No wonder my heart has been colder than 32-degree temperature in winter. A deep freeze. But we need to change our calamitous colors in autumn and just leave instead of making the relationships fall to feces. Ain't that some shit? But however, that takes about 4 seasoned levels of bravery to avoid being whipped and chained down by sexual slavery, because I was a slave to the urges and I had horrid splurges. So many players from my promiscuous games don't know my last name, but for most, I don't even remember what their first is. I've been so filled with the liquid of lust that I was thirstless, forcing a facade of fake confidence while internally feeling worthless. See, I've been burned and I've also set fires. I've been deceived and I too have been a liar. No sweat was my fake reply, but inside my heart perspired with blood. It felt like every moment was a Mike Tyson fight. But through the burned ashes tattooed on the face of my past, I now see the light, a spark of redemption breaking through the night. I am not the sins of my father's unfaithful flight. I am not the echoes of lust that played so loudly throughout my life. I am not just his son, I am the son, born and ascended at 5 a.m. For I may fall, but I will always rise again and again. Poem.
Damn, that was amazing. Thank you for showing. Oh my God, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, please do something with that, whether you publish it or record it or perform it. But woo, it was hot. Woo. All right.
Thank
So
you,
let me ask
sir.
you this, because I know you do so much stuff, but let's just say, like, time permitting, are there any other artistic pursuits? If, let's just say, you won the lottery tomorrow, is there something you always wanted to try that you never had the time to commit to? If it was a long-term thing, or just, is there something else that you could put on your CV artistically you haven't done yet?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest thing that I've always wanted to do is really learn how to play instruments. Like I mess around on the keyboard just for the sake of like putting together instrumentals and beats and stuff, but I'm not like proficient to the point where I can play and sing or play and rap or play and do. That's kind of my goal, but it's one of those, I know it takes a lot of time and dedication that I'm like, am I willing to put in that time? But that's something I've been considering for a long time. I mean, I want to learn how to play every instrument, not every instrument, but like definitely the keyboard, the guitar, like the trumpet, um, and maybe like a saxophone or something like that. But that's kind of the stuff I want to do. And right now, my son and I, we do a few keyboard lessons, like beginning stuff. what I do with him from a guy named Hoffman, the Hoffman Academy. He's a guy on YouTube. We follow his stuff sometimes, and we work on that together. So I'm kind of learning more through working with him. But that's kind of something that I really always wanted to do, is learn how to play actual instruments, read music for the sake of playing instruments. I can read music for the sake of singing for the most part. But yeah, that's something that's been in the back of, if I had a limited amount of time and a limited amount of resources, I would definitely do that.
Oh man, I one thing that I'm always impressed with people is people who can play an instrument and sing at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Any artist or band that you've seen, and it's like you've got a man or woman up front, and they're either playing the keyboard and singing at the same time, or a bass or a guitar or whatever. I mean, let's just put it out of the realm of possibility. I know it's possible, but when I see drummers who can sing, I'm like, man,
Yes.
just stop, because it's just like that is on
There's
such
so
another
much going
level.
on.
Like, I know they say it messes up your back and this and that, but like it is such a impressive thing. Even if somebody's just holding down a beat and they're into the microphone and they're just singing along, and I'm like, all right, now you're just showing off. Come on now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So how do you know, maybe you don't know, when you are creating a piece, like whether it's a poem or whatever, when you're just getting the words down and you're reaching for your phone or you're reaching for a napkin or a pen or whatever, do you know in that early like zygote phase if it's going to be a poem or it's going to be a rap and you have got to get it recorded like as soon as possible?
Well, for me, that depends on, because I have a couple of different ways that I write or create. Lately it has all been on my phone via MP3 recording. So I just kind of go off the top of my head, and I get a better feel for the flow of how I want things to go better when I just speak it first. Not necessarily like a freestyle off the top of the head thing, but it's like, I'll say a line, I'll take a pause, hey, what's the next line? I'll record the next line and go from there. So in that instance, it's already kind of recorded, and then I just have to take that vocal recording, I transcribe it using voice to text so that I can read it back to actually perform it. So that's what I do with a lot of songs these days. Now, when it comes to poetry, and like I do actually write a lot of stuff without having a beat in my head when it comes to songs or poetry, but I can't. That's why I call myself. I wanted to get on this before we leave too. Spoken rap is what I call myself, a spoken rap artist. And I know this ain't the question, but I'm gonna get back to the question because because I was primarily a hip hop, a rapper. That's how I started with anything when it comes to music stuff and performing. So when I try to write poetry, I think in rhymes, and to me it kind of limits me, and I can't stand it sometimes. But I have learned to just lean into it and go with it instead of fighting it,
Yeah.
because that's just the way I think when I start writing. And it's like, that's why I say spoken rap, because I like to call it spoken word with rap elements. So it's like anytime I do a spoken word piece, I don't know if you notice, it's gonna have like a cadence and a rhyme scheme to it. Like, and I cannot get away from that no matter how hard I try. I have before a few times, but it just feels awkward to me. Like, that's just the way I think. So
Just like maybe you just have an internal rhythm, and it's just one of those
exactly.
things where it's like,
Yeah.
what's that expression? It's like you just got to get yourself out of your own way, because what if you
Yeah.
try, like quote unquote, try to do something or try to force something into a lane or a box, then that's just going to stifle your creativity. And it's just like you're saying, you just got to get it out there. And I think that you can relate to this, what I'm about to say, where let's just say you're in line at the grocery store or something, and you have this idea just lands in your head, and you're like, oh my God, oh my God. The worst thing that I do, and I've been lazy and I've done this sometimes, where I just take out my phone and I either put like a note or I say something real quick. I try my best to not say, well, I had this great idea, but I didn't know. And I'm like, oh, the cashier's calling me up. And then I'm like, poem about baking soda and spiders. And then I'm
Yeah.
2 days ago, and I'm like 2 days later or whatever, and I go, the hell? What even? That's nothing. That's too vague. I don't know what that is. So I
Yeah.
at least try to come up with, it might not be the title, but it's like at least 5 to 6 to 7 words where it's like it's gonna be about this, and then I can look at it and go, okay, well there's something here. But man, if you make it too vague, like short story about the tree, and I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What have you ever been there where it's like you just can't get to something, and then you're in the middle of it, and you're like, oh, I don't want to forget, and then you look at it a couple of days later, and you go, nah, that's gone.
And see, it's a spiritual thing, honestly. I don't want to use, whatever higher power whoever may believe in, but it's something outside of yourself when creativity hits you, and it's like you have to go with that feeling in the moment, because that's a frozen moment in time that you may not ever be able to get back again. So I know exactly what you mean. A lot of times, actually, for me, I will wake up in a dream with some words on my mind, or something I actually dreamed about or was inspired by a dream I had. So I have to get it down instantly or it's gone. And my memory is awful. So if I don't write something down or get something down, it's done. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying when it's like, you reminded me of something. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan or not, but that's my
Yeah.
favorite. That's my favorite show ever in life. There was an episode of Seinfeld where Jerry, he was having a dream, and it came from a show he was watching on TV while he was asleep. It was some kind of alien thing, and he wrote something down on a piece of paper, and he went back to sleep. So he wakes up the next day and he looks at this paper. He's like, chicken scratch, like, what is this, what happened, like, what is this, what does this mean? Anyway, make a long story short, it's exactly what you're talking about. He had this creative spark, I'm gonna call it, this feeling, and he got it out, but it didn't make sense. He didn't write enough. Like you said, you have to write more words to get the idea fleshed out a little more when you can. But he came back and he seen that same movie that he was listening to before he went to sleep, and he was like, oh, that's what I wrote. But he's like, that's nothing, that's stupid. But yeah, I love Seinfeld. That's my favorite show ever on television. But yeah, you gotta go with that creativity when it hits, if at all possible.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that yeah, but you're right about that. That's the biggest thing.
Well, let me ask you this one because it kind of relates back to we were talking about going around to the different states, but I guess this is another pie in the sky question. So, if like money was no object and you could tour the country, is that something that you think that you could do in terms of being away from friends and family for months at a time to go West Coast, Pacific Northwest, Northeast, center of the country, maybe even Canada, you know what I mean? To let's say you had an album or you had a song on a soundtrack that just blew up and they're like, hey, we need you to come and open for so and so and do a 30-minute set. I mean, is that something where what I call stupid money, where the money is just so stupid, you don't have to worry about bills and it's, like winning the lottery or something like that? Is that something that you could even see yourself really been able to do or want to do?
Nope, that has never been an aspiration of mine to and even honestly, as much traveling as I've been doing these days has never been like a goal of mine. Um, Quite honestly, I more so got into traveling more because of my ex-girlfriend who she had me traveling all over the place. But before that, I was just all about Augusta, Aiken, and maybe Columbia. I wasn't even going to Atlanta like that. So for me to say would I want to go on tour or like, yeah, do a tour, even if just the United States or the Southeast region. I actually done a bit of a tour for my 40th birthday. I did like 10 featured shows within the month of my birthday, but it was all in Augusta, Aiken, and Columbia, and one in Atlanta. So I've done shows in multiple places in short dates and spans and times, but I would not want that life. I think I ain't gonna say I'm too old because people, I think you got people like, who was it? Ozzy Osbourne was still touring at his ripe old age, but
He's also ridiculously wealthy. He
well,
doesn't
yeah,
have to
of
worry
course.
about medicine or food or clothes or
Yeah.
gas or bills.
Yeah, it's a different landscape when you think about things like that. But no, that's never really been a aspiration of mine to be on a tour like that. I just want to, if I only performed in Aiken and Augusta, I would be fine just as long as there are different people who hadn't seen me before who are newly exposed to me. And now also it's not really necessary in my mind with the internet, because I have fans in Ghana, Africa, and in Paris, France, because my music has been shared there and posted on blogs and stuff. Like, I don't have to literally be there physically in order to make an impact there. So it's just not a thing for me. And for people that's a thing for, I think it's more for younger people who don't have that many responsibilities too at home.
That's true. That's a very
So,
real thing. Yeah, that's a
so
very real thing.
I'm more of a home. I ain't gonna say home buyer, like I stay at home all the time, but I'm more so a person in my community. Than yeah, I don't really. But yeah, that's a good question though. Not been a dream of mine like that.
Because earlier you mentioned Greenville, and I have never been there. And so people tell me, at least since I moved here, that that is a place to go where they've got open mics. But in your experience, are there open mics where you have to kind of, I don't, this is maybe the wrong word, but you kind of like you have to compete with comedians and musicians, and it's kind of geared more toward that? Or is there also spoken word only venues, or maybe it's just like different coffee shops and different places, the different stuff, different nights of the week, you know?
Yeah, so there is, I don't want to misquote the name of the organization, but there is one very regular, I think it's once a week, as a matter of fact,
Wow.
open mic Sunday nights at like I said, I don't want to misquote it because I know the exact name of the place, but it's in Greenville. I've actually featured there and been there performing a couple times before, but it's mostly catered to spoken word. There's rarely ever anything but spoken word. You may have a singer here and there or a hip hop artist, but it's mostly catered to spoken word. And it's once a week, and it's still going on. I'm pretty sure that's one I know of, but there are others in the area. But that one's been long running, and God, I gotta think of the name of it. But anyway, I'll tell you that at some point.
Yeah, plus these things change their name all the time. They get different
Yeah.
hosts, and host changes the name. So,
But,
um,
but yeah, they are out there in Greenville that are there is a poetry scene besides that one as well. There are a lot of poets from that area that I'm familiar with, mainly because we met at the Southern Fried Poetry Slam, being that we're both all South Carolinians. So, there's a whole slam team from Greenville, just like there's a slam team from Columbia. So yeah, it's out there. It's
okay,
definitely
okay. Well, if you have another piece that's easy to access, we'd like to hear you know maybe do another one. If that's all you have, that's cool. Just let me know if you do have something that you're kind of burning to share with people.
Yeah, I always got something. I always got something. Let's see, what would I like to do? You know what? I think I want to do the song. I think I performed this verse at Art of Words before? I think I did. Well, no, yeah, I'll do my latest release, my latest song. It's called My Journey, which I definitely just performed at Art of Words in December. I think I
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Yeah, I would do that since that's my latest actual song available on most streaming platforms and all that good stuff. And this song was written, I was going through a rough time after a breakup in October and November, and this was about just me reflecting on me in relationships and dating and just my life in general after that breakup. This is called My Journey. So after every relationship, I skip downtime trying to fill that empty hole in my soul with any girl I can find. They'd ask me what's my type. I'd say anyone that likes me. I hadn't learned discernment and making them earn a spot in my life, see? So healing past trust issues was unlikely. I'd be thinking the best version of myself is a pipe dream. Wish I could smoke it. After that toke hits on the list of all my exes, I just beg to be noticed. X's and O's miss, tic tac toes, no focus. Explain my thoughts and feelings. I'm hearing you must be smoking some hard doping because you ain't making no sense. But how can I when my mind has no job, paying no rent, living straight homeless, heart having no home? Then I have been noticing I put chicks where my own soul should fit. Always spoken on positive introspection while denying how hard that is with no direction. But they don't respect it. And the truth of the matter is, how can you gain something from them that you don't really feel? Deep inside, I always denied the tears through years I would feel when my spirit cried. And then it died flatline, but I never mourned it. The weeping that endured through the night lasted past morning. Joy never came, just more pain and more rain, thinking it's just a game. But who's to blame? Except myself. Gotta find a way to pick up the pieces to fix my health. Broken and shattered, emotionally battered, never being understood. Thought that should be what matters. Thoughts always scattered. Just trying to focus. Uplifting everyone else has always been what my goal is. What about me? Blinded by lust, can't see. Faking like I'm safe on top of the mountain while in valleys. Logical fallacy, but how bad can it be? But through writing this, found enlightenment. Finally, think I can breathe, rest, feel that air in my chest and in my lungs. Where did that come from? God, maybe, or could be my deceased mom talking to ancestors. Increase the calm, learning I have answers through all my qualms, my journey. And that's that.
Damn. Woo! He's on fire today, folks. Oh my God. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was awesome.
Thank you.
I don't think we're going to be able to top that. So as we wrap it up here, I just want to ask you what's coming up next for you, and let the folks know where they can find you and your work online.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, as far as what's coming up next for me, I am on the planning committee of the National Federation of Society, wait, NFSPS, National Federal Society of State Poetry. I always get the acronym mixed up. Anyway, it's a national poetry society that has most of the states involved, and they do a actual poetry slam slash in like a conference convention every year. Last year it was in Roswell, Georgia. That's when I got involved in the Atlanta area. And I became the book room manager. I hosted a few of the slam bouts and I volunteered for different things. So now I'm a part of that organization on the planning committee, and I'm going to be a host at some of the slams. It's going to be in New Mexico this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's going to be in July. Also, I host for the Southern Fried Poetry Slam, and I volunteer to do time and scorekeeping, and I represent the Tribe Slam team out of Columbia, South Carolina, and that is the largest team poetry slam in the country at this point, and it's been in different places. Next year it's going to be in Knoxville, Tennessee. I will be there in June. Of course, we have the Art of Words, which is every third Thursday, once a month at the Aiken County Public Library. There is a show called The Jam Session in Columbia, South Carolina, once a month, and it's on different days, not a consistent day, but it's at the end of the month that I usually perform in, and I help with behind the scenes as well sometimes. That's led by Bugsy Calhoun, Karen Joyner, Winter Storm, and Brittany Shy Moonlight is the main host right now. Those are the main events that are regular that I'm a part of consistently. And out in Atlanta, there is something called the Tamika Fest, which is by Tamika Georgia Me Harper, who is actually on Def Poetry Jam every season. She's performed on the Tonight Show with Killer Mike. She's won what is it, a Peabody or no, a Tony, some one of those big awards. She's a very well known throughout the spoken word community. She has a thing called Tamika Fest, which I help with in the background as well, and I perform it. That's in April. She actually has the key to the city of Atlanta that they have a Tamika Fest day that they decreed. So I'm a part of that every year at this point. Those are the only regular things I can think of. If I'm forgetting something, Lord forgive me. But
Man, this Tamika girl makes me feel lazy. She doesn't care.
yeah, she's done a lot for the poetry community, and matter of fact, she just performed at the Icons at the Dope Spit finale,
Oh
which is
my
something I used
God.
to do. Yeah, Icons in Augusta, Georgia. It was a show called Dope Spit that was every third Monday. I think I told you guys about that at Art of Words before. They just had their final show after what she done that for like 7 years. And Tamika was the
Wow.
finale, the final feature. But yeah, Saw Jules is the one that runs that. So that's about it as far as how to find me. Um, you can find everything, my social media. You can buy my merch, buy my music, watch my videos, contact me, pictures, photos, all that good stuff on my official website. Let me get this hat straight. Right here on the hat. Hold on. Wait. Big Bailey. This is a logo. I do graphics as well. I designed this logo myself. Got to give myself a shameless plug. But my website, as I'm sure most people who've seen me know by now, is bigbailey.com. And I have my little jingle, BIGBAILEY.com. Say it with me now, BIGBAILEY.com, bigbailey.com.
There you go. You heard it here first, folks. Oh man, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. You were awesome as I knew you would be. And man, I just want to wish you nothing but the best. 2025 is going to be a great year for you. I look forward to seeing you not only hopefully, at more shows at Art of Words at the Aiken County Public Library, but hopefully run into at other open mic events around Augusta and Columbia, and we will see what happens, man. But thank you so much for coming on the show, man. And you killed it. I knew you would.
Yes, sir, Mr. Eric. I appreciate you for having me, and best wishes to you and the show in the future. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, the platform that you're putting together, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Have a great rest of your weekend.
All right, you too as well.
Well, bye now.
Adios.